So the Azure SQL managed instance is the database as a service piece that extends and allows customers to basically lift all of their databases that they have on-prem and move it to their cloud to their cloud infrastructure with almost no interruption to the application access, and also very few, if any, changes to the database itself. And so the SQL Managed Engine instance is basically a scalable cloud database service that contains the broadest SQL Server database engine compatibility, and it allows for fully managed and evergreen platforms as a service. It also has the SQL Managed instance with near 100% compatibility with pretty much every latest SQL Server version based on SQL Enterprise. So the latest release is the SQL Enterprise 2019, or SQL 2019 Enterprise release. And I think it's at CU9 or CU8 at the current release, but it's whatever the current stable release is that Microsoft has pushed to the platform. And it gives you full native virtual network implementation. So if you have any security issues, or you need to make sure that the databases are highly available and fully patched and all that sort of stuff, and it takes full advantage of that. Also, the SQL Managed instance allows all the SQL Server customers to move everything, and to save time and effort. The SQL Server Managed instance will preserve all of the platform as a service capabilities, including automatic patching, version updates, automated backups, high availability, and all of the other features that SQL Server has internally or on-prem. That will help to reduce the overall amount of work that your database administrators have to do, and your total cost of ownership goes down for your SQL instances, because your licensing that you're paying is part of your connection fees rather than as a separate license fee. And any database admin that you can tell that you don't have to do as much work, they're thumbs up with that one. And I know that because I used to be one. Another tool that's available for us is the Azure Marketplace. The Azure Marketplace allows customers to find, try, purchase, and provision applications and services from all sorts of different providers. And they all run on Azure. There could be open source applications. They could be visual machine and database image-based applications. There could be applications for deployment software, for developer tools, and so forth. And there's well over 10,000 items listed in this platform. And so you can go in and probably find a virtual machine or a virtual implementation that will cover the majority of the types of software that are available out on the market. All right, so let's go take a look here at a couple of things. I'm just going to open up a new tab, and I am going to go to Google, and I want the Azure Marketplace. So if I go into the Azure, Microsoft Azure Marketplace, here, as I said, you can go in and you can search for all sorts of different implementations. You can find, as I mentioned, probably something for every application category. So if we go under databases as an example, you can see here that there are 905 total items under the databases component. There's 128 specifically to NoSQL. There are 242 for other relational systems such as Maria, Postgres. There are blockchain databases as well. There are data lake configurations and data warehouse configurations. So as an example, Project Online and so forth. You'll notice down at the bottom, it tells you what your costs are. So as an example, the Project Online data warehouse is $235 per month, and that's what the starting plan is, versus Query Surge, which is another data warehouse tool, which works at $1.43 an hour, so as a starting price. So you can take a look at some of these sorts of things. If you want to go to business intelligence, that's under analytics. We have a number of different items. We have data insights. We have data analytics tools. We have big data. We have, all that sort of stuff. So as an example, let's say that I'm going to go in here and I'm going to go back to the Get Started page, and I'm going to type Tableau. All right, so under Tableau, oops. So under Tableau, we have a number of different result sets. So we have Tableau Server. So instead of running Tableau as a service or running the Tableau server locally, you could just take your license from your on-premise deployment and move it up to the cloud and do the Tableau server deployment that way. Or instead of doing it, you could do it as a Tableau hosted environment, where it's much like the SQL Server, where Azure SQL works, where it's just a platform as a service. You can do the same thing with Tableau. So you can run Tableau as a service, and then you just create connectors to store your data internally and be able to communicate with it back there. Another tool that we have is Toad. So Toad is an enterprise engineering or enterprise architecture tool that is made by Quest. You can use it to do things like network redesign, database re-engineering or reverse engineering, all that sort of stuff. And so you can connect to Toad and run a cloud-based version of it as well. And so here, again, as I say, you get all sorts of different types of applications and tools. Generally, most of these have like 30-day trials or 60-day trials, so that you can download them and install them into your platform and try them out in your environment. Another thing that I wanted to show everybody is the pricing guide. So if I go to Azure pricing, where is it? There it is. So as part of a way to make it easy for individuals to understand how pricing works and how to know how much money it's going to cost them, Microsoft created this pricing calculator. And this pricing calculator can be used in different locations. So there's like US, Canada, UK, whatever. Of course, I'm in the UK, so I'm gonna use this one. And let's say that I want to do an estimation. So I'm going to build out an Azure SQL database. And I'm going to scroll down here, and I'm going to say that it's going to live in this area. I'm going to be using it for general purpose databases. It's going to have a single database on it. It's going to be provisioned, so it's going to actually be a database server, not an actual serverless one. I'm going to not worry about storage backup. Hardware 5 generation, so that's sort of the newest hardware platform. And I want to have this as a virtual core, and I want 8 virtual cores to it. So this is what my SQL Server will look like. You'll notice here, right now, if I just pick those basic configurations, that my monthly bill will be $1,476 US a month, okay? And so that's what my monthly bill would be if I just based it on this structure. If I scroll down, I can say that I want local redundancy. I could do multi-available zones, and I can change it. You'll notice it now changes the price to $2,006 a month. I can say that I want to change this to a 1-year reserved. If I change it to a 1-year reserved, maybe it will or it won't. There we go. You'll notice that because it's local redundancy, if I leave it as pay as you go, it's $889. If I change it to a 1-year reserve, it drops it to $578. And then if I do 3 years, it goes to $399. And that's my monthly charge. If I want to do upfront, I can pay it as an upfront charge, so $983 average per month, or $14,000 for the year, and I can pay that upfront. I can also do software licensing for SQL. I can do the Azure SQL hybrid benefit, which drops the price, or I can do pay as you go, which has a dedicated price, which is what's going to increase this. And of course, I get into my storage. I can specify how many gigabytes of storage do I want, so on and so on. And of course, as soon as I start increasing this, then that will change the cost. So let's go up here and we're going to go to example scenarios. So they've created a bunch of example configurations for us so that we can give an example of types of things that we can do. And it also gives you a screenshot of an example. So for instance, if we're doing advanced analytics on big data, we can see that we've got different types of data sources coming in. They're going into the Azure Synapse Analytics tool, which is a pipeline. It then goes into our Azure Data Lake, which is our data storage. And then it can go into, it goes into our Cosmos databases, our web application, and so forth. And so if we just, let me go back here. I want to remove this from here. And okay, good. So I have nothing, perfect. So I'm gonna go back here. And in this scenario, let's just say that I want to build a basic advanced analytics structure for big data. If I go and add that to the estimate, my estimate is going to be roughly $7,500 a month for my monthly cost. And that gave me basic computing for these capabilities. So for the analysis, it would give me optimized generation 2 computing capabilities. For analysis services, I would get 10 QPU with 3 gigabytes of effort at 13.2 cents per hour. Communications, 720 hours is $95. It will also give me Power BI capabilities, storage account info, and Cosmo databases. And then again, you can do your licensing and save options on that. If you can increase or decrease storage. And so it gives you a total amount as well. And if I change this, I can go to British pounds. So it becomes 5,000 pounds, or I can make it Canadian dollars. Of course, it's going to go up to like almost 10,000. I could do Indian rupees. That's a lot. I can do rubles, Russia. That's even more. So you can change the pricing guide as you need to. I'm going to delete this one. And then here again, you can use these examples: standard Azure Web Apps for change implementation, enterprise data warehouse, real-time analytics, and so forth. And as you go through it, it will show you what your estimations are for saving on different types of platforms and whatnot. So again, like as an example, if I want storage and I just want to create standard ordinary storage, if I go to storage accounts, and I scroll down here, let's say that I want pool storage, and I want, we'll just use LRS. My capacity, I want, what have I got? Let's say I want 40 terabytes. And I'm going to do, let's see, I'm going to do 3-year reserved. And upfront, yeah. So as an example, if I want, oh, I don't want a petabyte. I don't want that much. How do I end up with that? Anyways, let's go back there. There we go. So yeah, so 622. Oh, I see what happened. When I picked the 1 year, it changed it to petabytes. So if I want to reserve 1 petabyte of capacity, it's going to cost me $13,000 a month, right? So a petabyte is a lot of data. If I pay it up front, it's going to be $164,000 a year upfront charges. So I have to be careful in terms of pay-as-you-go and whatever. So pay-as-you-go is there. So that's $622 a month. US dollars, and if I just change this to pounds because I live in the UK, that changes it to 472 pounds per month. And so I get to see an idea of how much money it's going to cost me to have 40 terabytes of storage in the cloud that I have. And as a real life example for this, when I moved to the UK and I backed up all of my storage that I had on at home, I had a lot more stuff than I knew what I was going to do with. So I ended up having to go out and I bought 5 8 terabyte external hard drives, external USB drives, book drives, so I could put all of my data on it. And now I'm get the opportunity now to have time to sort through it all and actually figure out. I don't have 40 terabytes worth of information, but I needed it just to make sure that I could bring it all over here until I had time to sort through it and make it all mine. Okay, so that's another example of some of the features that we can use to help us with figuring out how much we're going to spend and how much we need to get this up and running in our environment. Okay, the third module deals with some of the core functions outside of the standard configurations that we've got in terms of databases and networking and storage and stuff. And some of the other tools that are also available to us that make using Azure an infrastructure that will give our business a boost. One of the first things is the idea of the Internet of Things. Everything nowadays, and I mean everything, is connected to the internet. Your television is connected to the internet. Your car is connected to the internet. Your fridge in your kitchen is connected to the internet. The one that makes me laugh is that people go out and buy fridges with televisions in them. And so instead of having to just in the old days, open the door and see what's in the fridge, they just tap the screen and it shows them via a camera and displays it on a screen on the outside of the door. Now, I guess that's okay, because if you're at the grocery store and you want to know if you need to buy milk or not, you can remote into your device and say, oh yeah, I'm short of milk, I can buy it when I'm at the grocery store. But generally speaking, it's not going to work. The original concept for the Internet of Things was actually done many, many years ago at MIT with a bunch of computer science students who got really annoyed with getting up and going to the Coke machine at the end of the hall and it being empty. So what one of the students had the idea of doing, and he got permissions from Coca-Cola for this, is he opened the machine and he wired in a network card and he gave it an IP address and all that sort of stuff. And he hooked it up to the corporate network or the campus network, to the web page. And he put sensors in all of the pop dispensing arms. And so he knew that if it had, 50 cans or 50 bottles in the rack thing, that it would weigh a certain amount. And so what he had programmed it in is the program sensor said, okay, if there's less than this amount in the machine, then you need to send an email to Coca-Cola to say that you need to come and fill this machine. And also what it did is it gave a map on the computer so that the students could log on to the web page and look on the map to see how many bottles of pop were left in that Coke machine before they got out of their chair and they actually went down the hallway to go and grab a Coke out of the machine. So that's sort of the first iteration of how the concept of Internet of Things came about. And of course, it's just proliferated from there to include just about everything in our lives. Primarily, you'll see it in large buildings with things like HVAC systems and so forth. I've even seen it in an airport where they had the IoT devices hooked up to the toilets and the other bathroom equipment, so that it could tell the maintenance people whether or not it was plugged or not, and whether it was flushing properly, and if it needed to be cleaned and stuff. So IoT is kind of lives everywhere in the world at this point. But the Internet of Things, it needs to be managed somehow. And so in Azure, there is the Internet of Things control platform, which is made up of 3 parts. So the first part is the Azure IoT Central, and this is a fully managed global IoT SaaS solution. And what this does is it allows you to connect to and monitor and retrieve information from different IoT devices that you have in your building. So as I mentioned before, a lot of organizations or a lot of buildings have HVAC systems that have IoT built into them, so that the central management server in the control room can track things like temperatures based on readings that the IoT devices are providing to that system, and then have it automatically respond so that when it reaches a temperature of 42 degrees Celsius, or sorry, 42 degrees Celsius is pretty hot. Let's say 25 degrees Celsius, that it's going to close the blinds automatically, or it's going to kick in the air conditioning, or something of that nature, to make the temperature more consistent and palatable for everybody. So using the IoT Central capabilities helps you to manage and control that. The IoT Hub is a managed service for devices that don't have direct IoT connections between the IoT controller or IoT Central and the IoT device themselves. So normally IoT devices will be Wi-Fi driven, and so they'll be able to communicate via Wi-Fi to a central location. But there might be situations where you have IoT devices in places where there is no Wi-Fi signal. Let's say in mechanical rooms where you've got large motors running or any of those sorts of things that will interfere with the Wi-Fi signal. Then you will have situations where you need to put a computer basically that acts as a gateway, and then you would wire all of those IoT devices into that system. And then that hub, that gateway, will act as a directional communication route between the IoT devices and the IoT Central, so that you can still communicate back and forth with them. And then lastly is the Azure Sphere. This is another methodology to control internet-connected devices. And it is with built-in communications features, including different security features and so forth. One of the things with IoT devices, of course, is making sure that they're secured so that you can't have hackers or other nefarious types trying to interfere with the activities of the IoT devices and potentially causing all sorts of problems that you don't intend them to do, right? So there's a high level of security and so forth. So these are just three of the types of things that Azure supports. There is an IoT product selector that's available, and so you can choose a number of different product types and devices that you can use with your Azure infrastructure for IoT. Another term that you've heard a lot of lately is this idea of big data and analytics. And some of the tools that are available that Microsoft supports include the Azure Synapse Analytic tool. This is a cloud-based enterprise data warehouse infrastructure so that you can set up and build a cloud-level data warehouse versus an on-prem data warehouse. And the tool will then help to do all of the standard data analytics that you would do if you had an on-prem data warehouse in your organization. Another tool is HD Insight. This is an open source tool that allows you to do cloud configurations and cloud data searches. And so again, this is another open source analytics service that enterprises use. And it's based on Hadoop, which is another open source data warehouse data analysis tool that exists in the Azure platform. There's also the Azure Databricks. This is an Apache Spark-based analytics tool, and it will, again, give you the capabilities of processing massive amounts of data, but it's going to be based on the Apache Spark database engine methodology. So those are just three of the many different types of data tools. There's also the data lakes analytics component. So there's the capability of building out data lakes. There's other data and analytics services that are available as well. So there's a number of different types of services that are available for your infrastructure to be able to communicate with. Also, as part of the Azure platform, there is the machine learning / artificial intelligence components that Azure has. And so the machine learning services provide cloud-based environments to develop, train, test, deploy, manage, and track machine learning models that you have in your organization. So you can use the machine learning models to do things like antivirus assessments. You can also use it to work with and enhance things like dealing with user and customer complaints, looking at trends for customer sales. So if you're using retail sales as an example, you can use the artificial intelligence tool to help you with doing predictive analysis for sales and knowing what types of things people buy and those sorts of things. The machine learning that you see is, as an example, if you go to an online store a very famous online store that we all know. And when you go on there, it says, oh, we think you would be interested in this because you purchased these items in previous sessions. And so the machine will actually use machine learning and artificial intelligence to help figure out different things for different individuals, purchase history, and all those sorts of things. As well as the machine learning components, there's also cognitive services. And those cognitive services allow for us to quickly enable the different types of apps so that we can see, hear, speak, understand, and interpret a user's needs, okay? So the big craze the last few years is the creation of bots, right? Everybody needs a bot on their network. So when I go to a company's website and I start talking as a chat, the chat makes it sound like I'm talking to a real person. When in actual fact, I'm talking to an application that has been written to interpret and communicate with a human based on learning that application has done to work with the person. So as part of the cognitive services, as you go through and you do different things, the algorithms in the system will look at trends of people. So they'll figure out, oh, well, if they go and they buy a pair of shoes, generally the next place that they go after they buy their pair of shoes is they go and buy a new shirt. Oh, okay. So maybe what we need to do then is that we need to display for users shoes and shirts because there seems to be some correlation between those two things happening. And then the system can go through and can customize based on interpretations that it's made from the users, what the users want to see, okay? So, or another example, if a user goes on to buy a computer, so they'll go on and buy a new laptop. The next purchase that they make after they buy the new laptop is generally going to be a docking station. And then after that, they're going to buy a Bluetooth mouse. So when the user goes on next time to go searching for a laptop, not only will it show them the latest laptops, but it'll also show them the compatible docking stations that go with that laptop and the mice that will also work with it because those mice are Bluetooth and will work with the Bluetooth system in that laptop. So the system is learning as it goes through. Now, you could pre-program a lot of those sorts of tendencies into the system because humans tend to all do the same thing. But the cognitive services is a way for the machine to learn how to do things. Okay, and so that's an interesting feature that the system allows you to do. The third one is the Azure bot service, and that's taking, as I mentioned before, the bot capabilities. Everybody needs to have a bot, and it lets you create enterprise-level bots that can maintain control of the data. It also can transmit data. It can help solve problems, and so on. Now, as a note, for all of the artificial intelligence and machine learning services that are available in Azure, we can go to the Azure, the AI machine learning section of the website, and we will take a look at that here in a second. But basically, there are a number of different machine learning components that are available for a number of the Microsoft applications. So there's machine learning for things like Dynamics, there's machine learning for Azure, there's machine learning for development, there's machine learning for manufacturing and retail and all sorts of different types of scenarios. As I mentioned before, with the serverless computing, it allows you to do things like Azure Functions. So we can do, event-based code running on the system. And so serverless computing is the evolution of cloud platforms where you have almost pure cloud native code. And serverless will bring developers to the business logic while insulating them from the infrastructure. And it says that it allows them to be more code and event-driven and less server or no server management structure so that they don't have to have that infrastructure there. And then the infrastructure behind this allows for instant scale to meet any types of demands for micro-billing all the way through paying what you use. And then serverless requires that you have to change the way you think a little bit and approach to building applications because it's not the same as if you're building an application to run on a system. You're building an application as a service and therefore the way that it executes. It gives you some other functionality, including the Azure functions, so code that's running as a service and not the underlying platform or the infrastructure. So you basically are executing stuff based on an event that occurs. And also logic apps, which is a way for you to automate and orchestrate tasks, business processes, and workflows. And then lastly is the event grid, which is a fully managed and event routing service that uses a publish subscribe model for uniform event consumption, so that everything is processed and equal across all of the board. The other one that's quite useful is DevOps. So DevOps is a tool that runs in the Azure platform that is used for a number of different things. It is used as a development collaboration tool that includes things like pipelines and Git repositories and Kanban boards and automated tools and cloud-based load testing. So there's a lot of different things that this application does. So basically, it takes a platform that you would use to manage and implement software development and software design. So with the Azure DevOps as an example, you have a code repository that you have your developers check code in and have it checked out so that they can go and edit it. So that way you don't have two people trying to edit the same code fragment at the same time. It has automated testing capabilities, so you can go through and write a test script to automate things like interface views and whether or not a function's execution and output are working properly. And you can also do project management. You can create project task lists. You can create test scripts that you can manage in the system. You can create and track bug lists and all sorts of different things. So there's a very large number of tasks that you can execute from a development house point of view using the GitHub platform. The DevOps platform, well, and GitHub too. So GitHub is a open source online hosting environment that deals with source control for management of code. It has versioning of code fragments, and it allows you to do bug and task management. Now, GitHub is actually part of the Microsoft infrastructure. And so GitHub and DevOps work hand in hand with each other as a way for you to create publicly accessible projects that you want citizen developers to be able to participate in. So as an example of one is that one of the things that I do as project work for Microsoft is that I go in and edit the labs that are written for the course materials to make sure that they're accurate and based on what the interfaces look like and that the actual processes and steps as written work properly. And so we use GitHub to manage the courseware lab files. And so on a regular basis, usually once a month or whatever, I get 4 or 5 labs to edit. And as I make the editorial changes, I will create a request to push those editorial changes into the lab. And then whoever is responsible and owns the lab, which is generally the course content creator, will take my changes and merge them in so that those will then become the most latest release or current version of the lab instructions. And so by doing that, we're using me as a development or citizen developer to make those editorial changes, but the owner of the source code or the source control will ultimately have final say as to whether those changes are merged into the system or not. And so you can integrate GitHub and the libraries in GitHub with DevOps so that the two of them can merge together and store different types of projects, whether they're internal or external. The GitHub Actions for Azure is an automated software workflow. And basically what this is doing is it's allowing you to automate the building, testing, and deploying components from GitHub through Azure. And then also the Azure Dev Test Labs. These are for creating things. So as an example, if you need to create a virtual machine to test something that you've written, you can actually have the system automate the process of sparking up a virtual machine, loading the app, doing the automated test, and then when the results are done, send you the result and destroy the virtual machine because you don't need it anymore. So there's a lot more on-the-fly creation of environments and then deleting of environments as needed. And the nice thing about this, of course, is that you don't have to plan ahead of time for resource utilization. So you don't have to have a whole bunch of resources sitting there collecting dust until such time as they're used. You just spark them up when you need them and get rid of them when you're done.
This is very true. Cloud is accelerating the skills gap. Every day, Microsoft adds new features in Azure, right? What we're going to see in the next few months may be different with all the advancements that Microsoft is adding. In fact, this is actually an old slide, but this is very true. And the more advancements are added, the more the gap is widening. So it's very important that we are paying attention and getting the right education for us, whether we're individual, starting on a role in cloud, or you have employees that needs to do this. Also, what are the benefits? So for an employee, stand out, right? Get recognized. That this is one validation because we have a tangible number associated with it. And as they say, if you're certified, you earn more. And it also advances your career, whether you're currently uh, in the market for a new job or you want to get better at your current job. Definitely certification would help. And for the companies, this is something that most C levels appreciate, that it can help them with talent identification. Nowadays, the way we're being, the hiring uh, is being done, it puts a great deal in the certification of the candidate. Also, for current teams that have certified members, they can see that the team produces 20% more. And to the business, it has this huge impact that if you have a huge percentage of certified candidates, then your team gives a better overall impact. Okay. Now, what makes Microsoft certifications valuable? First and foremost, in terms of market share, as we all know, Microsoft is that dominant technology in the market. There are others, but Microsoft has grown its base and it is a market share leader. Um, it is first and foremost, the certification is aligned to relevant job roles. So as you saw earlier, we have certifications for cloud administrators, for cloud developers. It demonstrates that you know how to apply your skills in the real world, and it is a verified achievement. So you can't just say that, hey, I took the training, but you can say that I really know this, I have the skills because I am certified. Now, aside from that, as I said earlier, it is aligned to market opportunity. What is the market looking for? So whatever Microsoft has, definitely they have the certification to match it. And these are very critical skills to make your digital transformation successful. And Microsoft continues to update this. And we can have a whole lot of discussion, discussing about how easy it would be to maintain your certification. And also, Microsoft puts a great deal that all the Microsoft certified professional renews their certification every year just by upskilling themselves. There are more information on Microsoft Learn, and we can definitely explain that to you as well. Just contact us back. And just looking into the kind of questions you're getting from the exam, these are skill-based questions. Gone are the days when you're going through multiple questions and you can guess it. Nope, can't do that anymore. Also, it requires experience, and you know how to apply those skills. And hands-on labs are also included in the exam. It's we don't want to scare you that it's difficult, but it really demonstrates that you have the skills if you pass the exam. You can also shout out to the world your recognition. You can add it in your LinkedIn profile. And this actually also solidifies your role in your current employment, or if you're looking for work, then this really helps you to land that job that you want. Okay. So just a few more stats here. 91% of certified IT pros says certification gives them the credibility. 93% of decision makers agree that this has a lot of added value, and 52% says that this expertise is more sought after within their organization. This is just an example, since we discussed since we discussed an intro to AZ 900. These are the kinds of skills that are measured, and I'd like to just go quickly to our website. This is our website. You can just go to Microsoft to check out other resources that we have here, such as the role-based certification path. This gives you an idea on what are the different certification and training, and these are all links to the actual courses, so you can read the outline. Another thing is, um, if you are you're representing a company, there are several ways to purchase training. We have our NetCom Unlimited, which provides you with 12 months unlimited access to more than 500 virtual instructor led training. Or you have our Learning Passport. Or you can just go to our schedules. If you're one person and you want an open enrollment, you just can, look for the different schedules that we have available for you.